On this episode, we are talking about coaches who know little to nothing about goalies. Why do they give feedback when they never took a shot in their entire life? Do they think watching other goalies gives them the knowledge to give good feedback to their goalies? Bro, until you've been blamed for every single loss in your life, step off. The Goalies Matter podcast team is going to be tackling this important topic, so grab some popcorn, grab a camping chair, settle yourself in. You're not going to want to miss this one. Let's go.
This is the dark side of the Mask podcast, a Goalies Matter production. This podcast will give you an inside look behind the mask, both the physical one worn by goalies and the emotional one we use to hide our burdens we carry. We'll address the issues affecting goalies' mental health and help you see the light. We want you to know that you are not alone in this fight. So let's fight this battle together.
Welcome to the dark side of the mask. I'm your host, Coach Giggs. And today, and for many of you, we're deep into the spring season, and we're getting one story after another regarding the topic we're going to be discussing today, and that is ungoalie educated coaches. Again, let me say that again. Ungoalie educated coaches and why they don't understand us or what comes with the position that we play. They think that by watching goalies, they simply know everything about the position, when clearly they know absolutely nothing about us or the position. Today is a special episode because I have brought the podcast team together to discuss this topic. They all have different perspectives and opinions, but at the end of the day, we have all experienced the same bullshit feedback and treatment from these ungoalie educated coaches. All right, as you can tell, I'm clearly getting fired up. Let's get after it. Okay, joining us today is our podcast team, which consists of myself, Coach Tyler Storr, who's a friend, coach, former goalie, and now in digital productions. And also we have Coach, I can officially call you Coach, Rachel Costello, local high school head coach here in the state of Michigan. So team, welcome aboard and joining me on this podcast today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So anyways, this is a topic I have been wanting to tackle for quite some time, and a topic that's going to hit close to home for so many, if not all, goalies in the goalie community, no matter the talent level, no matter the division. I mean, we've all had coaches for the most part who either never played goalie or never even played lacrosse, but yet they try to give us feedback, but it's not really good feedback. They make decisions without truly knowing what to take into consideration, and many just default to fucking politics, which drives me nuts when it comes to playing time decisions and whatnot. So how did we get here? Why is this happening? And is this happening all over to include the hotbeds? Or are we just the lucky ones in these non-hotbed regions that get blessed with these ungoalie educated coaches? So I'm going to let you guys kick this thing off because I could be here to talk you guys blue in the face regarding this topic. So team, what are your initial thoughts regarding these coaches? Why don't they understand us as goalies, and how has it affected you guys personally as you guys were growing up? Rachel, why don't you kick things off?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of different coaches in my career as a goalie, and some understood and some really got the goalie position, and some were able to hire outside help and hire goalie help, but that wasn't the case for some of the teams. You know, budgets are tight, especially when it comes to women's lacrosse. So just trying to make sure that I'm clearly communicating with a coach, making sure that I'm saying what I need to be doing, and trying to be your own coach is something that you really have to do and speak for yourself and vouch for yourself. And not every coach will understand exactly what you're saying, and they'll continue to do some things that aren't beneficial to a group of goalies or one goalie, depending on what team you're at. So, I mean, it's all about learning. And as a goalie, I feel like we all have a very good open mind when it comes to learning different things. You know, we're learning goalie skills, but also trying to make sure that, you know, I'm able to read an attackman. So understanding that, and I think that goalies have a very open mind where sometimes coaches don't have an open mind when it comes to getting goalie education for themselves. So I think that is the number one thing that I would love to see change.
I absolutely 100%. Tyler, what are your thoughts?
So I'm not gonna lie, I'm spoiled. I've always had good coaches, like especially for being from Florida. My goalie coach all through high school was the person that held the record for save percentage at UMass until Sal Locascio came along. So I was blessed to have a great goalie coach through high school and then at Limestone and BYU. A dedicated goalie coach. So in terms of me personally, like being spoiled, I have been, right? But that being said, I've seen a lot of good, and I have definitely seen a lot of bad. In terms of like how we got here, the one thing that I would love to see change is that I think there's a lot of this, like goalies, to be a goalie, you have to be psycho, right? Like every goalie has something mentally wrong with them. And if every goalie, and to be a good goalie, you have to have something mentally wrong with you, then how the position is taught doesn't matter. Like you just have to find the kid that's like crazy enough to hop in the goal and have shots whipped at him. And if they can make it through that, then everything else will fall into place, right?
Yeah.
And although I think there's, certain mindsets that, may give a goalie like a little bit of a natural edge, I think that the goalie position can be taught just like any other position. And if you teach it the right way, you could have a completely sane and normal, not off their rocker kid that is taught the goalie position and becomes excellent at it. And I think that's like one of the big things that I've seen in terms of like why maybe sometimes the coaching is off. Like I've had coaches that tell me like, I just, have a bunch of kids that raise their hand and I just, I throw the ball at them as hard as I can. And if they don't flinch, then that's the goalie. And I'm like, that has got to be the dumbest mindset I have ever heard in my life. Right. Or like coaches that, sling a shot at a kid. He's 10 years old. He gets hit right in the bare shin. And then on the next shot, like doesn't move the same way and flinches. And he's like, oh, he's scared of the ball. And I'm like, no, you idiot. He's not scared of the ball. And, he's actually really intelligent because his brain is working. Yours clearly isn't. Because if you put your hand on a hot stove, you don't leave it there and go, oh, this is awesome, right? Like you touch a hot stove, you're like, oh, snap. So the next time that you see a hot stove, you're like, oh, I should be careful, right? So you take a freaking, 90-mile-an-hour shot to your shin as a kid, and then you see the exact same thing, your brain goes, oh, yeah, no, get out of the way of that thing. And so, of course, they flinch. It doesn't mean they're scared of the ball. It means their brain is doing its job. And the only way to override that, right, is through good goalie training.
Yep.
And teaching the position the right way, because then you can override sort of that brain's natural response to, perceived danger and get the heck out of the way.
Right. Yeah, because we have that fight or flight mentality all the time as a goalie. You have to. But I want to touch back on the crazy psycho part, because I think that's interesting, because I always say it in my camp. I go, to be a goalie, you have to be a little bit off. You have to have – you're missing something upstairs, a cell here or there, to say, yeah, I'd love to jump in the goal. And what's so funny about that is I just got back from a week-long work trip in South Bend, and I had some free time. So I went to go check out the Notre Dame's campus, and I was over there, and holy shit, Notre Dame was actually practicing, the number one team in the country. So I literally sat there, and of course I'm going to watch all the goalies play and whatnot. So for 2 hours, I'm sitting there watching Notre Dame practice, D1, you're right, and I thought there was a lot of interesting things. So number one, some observations. Number one, the goalie coach who's actually first of all 4 goalies were getting warmed up simultaneously at the exact same time. The one who was warming up their top goalie was actually the offensive coordinator, and he wasn't just he was the one thing. And I watched him the entire time. He didn't take one hard shot, a natural hard shot, but nothing. He wasn't ripping it. He wasn't crease cranking it. He wasn't seeing how fast he can. He literally was just placing the shots and getting the goalie to move. And he just was repetitions about, placements and things like that, getting the guy to move one way or the other, right? And after about maybe 5 minutes, I think the guy, it was Riccardelli, I think is his last name, their star goalie. Literally, I think he was like just dripping in sweat, and he wasn't getting ripped on by that very much. So then later on, I'm watching the midfielders and the attackmen. They're doing a shooting drill at the far end of the field, and they got their number one backup, and he's a grad assistant. I was doing some research, but anyways, he's a grad student, and he was in there, and he was getting shelled. Here's the funny thing: these kids were ripping shots on them, right? But you're talking about the best team in the country right now. Literally, they weren't missing the goal. They literally were hitting the pipes. The inside part of the pipe. They were scoring every single shot, ripping. The goalie I could have just stand there and I wouldn't have gotten a hit because that's how fast the shots were coming. And the ones that did hit him, they either hit him in his stick because, well, they were shooting and he's a lefty. So naturally, he's going to make the save, right, Tyler? Lefties always have the advantage. And he didn't even move his stick. They literally shot it right at his stick. He took one off the hand, which you could tell it hurt him. He took one off the shin, which you could tell it hurt him. Took one off the foot that hurt him. And the funny thing is his coach stopped the drill. And he yelled at those 4 guys who hit the goalie. And not so much because out of the safety of the goalie, right? Because, these things were pinging off him, and you could just tell they were hurt. He's like, but he yelled at them because those were not going to be goals. Those were going to be stopped shots by any goaltender in this Division I level. You hit a goalie, that is not a goal. You are here to score goals. So that's why they were hitting corners and dinging pipes, because that's what they should be doing. If you're hitting a goalie, you're not actually scoring the goal. But at least it was control, and the offensive coordinator / goalie coach was actually monitoring that to make sure that, okay, not just for the safety of the goalie, but also reminding the offensive players that you take good shots, take better shots, and then we don't just hit goalies because we want to hit goalies, which is what has come of it in these non-hotbed regions. It's the reason why we're here today and talking about this, because coaches are letting players shoot on these goalies who don't know how to shoot properly and are pinging goalies left and right, and goalies are stepping out like, is this natural? Is this right? My head, I have a concussion. Parents are losing their marbles too because my kid's coming home with headaches and concussions, this, that, and the other thing. And what did the coach do about it? He did nothing. I was just working with a program that I worked with this spring, and the same thing happened. Girl hits my goalie square in the head, and immediately stopped the drill, told her to drop, give the whole team, give 15 push-ups, and everyone was going to watch her. We're going to stop. She has to do 15 push-ups, and then the girl got up on her own when she got done and went right over to her goalie, apologized, and said, I apologize, I didn't mean to do that. That was unintentional. That was accidental. I didn't mean to hit you or whatever. Same kind of concept like the Notre Dame situation. But she meant the apology, and coach was dead serious about, you're not going to hurt our goaltender. That's not how you're going to, that's not how you're hitting the goalie. You're not scoring goals. That's pure and simple. So I thought that was pretty awesome. I want to, give kudos to that coach and to the team that I was working with. And then the last one, the last example I had too was Angie Benson. So one of the things I learned from Angie a long time ago, she did things like this is when she and Taylor Moreno were actually grouped together, and they were doing clinics for a little bit. And they said, if you want to be a good goaltender or a great goaltender, you got to do something a little bit crazy. Make a save that's not your routine, typical textbook save. You have to do something a little bit different. Drop to a knee, do the splits, throw your body in front of the ball, unexpectedly. Do whatever you can to make that big, crazy save to make that additional stop. So, yeah, there is a little bit of a missing link in the brain that you actually have to have in order to be a good goaltender. But at the same time, we got to get back to the good goalie instruction. And again, you were privileged, Tyler, to grow up in an environment where you had good goalie coaching. But then you go out to Utah, and Utah's not a hotbed state by any stretch of the means. So you have these, yes, you have. If you're from a hotbed, you're going to be blessed with goalie coaching and coaches that care. And even the coaches that I've come into contact with, here's the Notre Dame, here's Angie Benson, the team I worked with, they all come from relatively good programs, and they understand that goalies are a big part of the team, and then we have to take care of them. So we're not here to just beat the crap out of them, which some of these coaches think they can get away with and just do. And so when parents are arguing and goalies are arguing about, they throw us in there like pin cushions. I said, well, is it structured shooting And are they looking out for you as well? So like so my thing is if you're getting hit in like shoulders, that's one thing. If you're getting hit in arms, that's one thing. It means that your body's in the right spot and they're actually making an attempt to shoot to the sides of you or to the corners. But if they're hitting you, center chest, in the head, directly in the midsection, those aren't quality shots. They're not legitimately taking shots to score, whether they're accidental or on purpose. That's where coach has to step in, and they have to say something and control that environment and control that drill. And this is the shit that drives me absolutely bonkers, is that I will go and I will watch a practice from a distance, and I'm like, what are they doing? Even with the warm-ups, like they're getting 10 shots and they're getting crease crank shots. I'm like, that's not warming up your goalie. That's not taking care of your goalie. So there's always these root causes, and where could we start with? We could start with the goalie, but at the same time, the coaches have to take some accountability at some point, and they have to be accountable for their actions. And that's where I think we see a disconnect today among coaches and good coaches. Like, yeah, you have coaches that can do X's and O's all day long. You don't have to be in the lacrosse environment to understand X's and O's. You can be a basketball coach coaching lacrosse. But until you truly understand what lacrosse is all about and truly understand what a goalie is all about, you're never going to really be able to put those two pieces together and really truly fully understand that. So, I
got a funny story for you about that Utah. So, Coach Lamb started junior high lacrosse in Utah Valley when I was there, and he got some of the players to help coach along with some other people, right? And so I got a team, and 2 years in a row, my team went undefeated in the junior high league and won a championship. And after the second year of doing it, Coach Lamb attributed it to the fact that I was the only team that actually had a goalie that stopped shots. And so he made me the next year. He didn't let me coach a team. He made me coach the goalies at every team. And so because it was just that bad. And so I did. So the third year of doing it, I ended up only coaching goalies, but for all the teams in the Utah County Junior High League, because he said that's the biggest difference. He was like, your team, the goalie actually makes saves. And a lot of these other teams, the save is when it hits the kid, and that's it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's what you got to do. Sometimes you have to be like the county coach, the county goalie coach, or whatever.
And that's what it was. And I did it for 1 year, and after that, I missed my team too much. So I was like, I want to have my team back.
I get it. So. All right, as always, so I'd like to kick off my topic here, as always, with my top 10 list of contributing factors that affect mental health. So here we go. And so contributing factors that affect our mental health due to bad coaches or un-goalie educated coaches. And I will repeat that again, un-goalie educated coaches. So kicking off my list at number 10, they simply have no initiative to learn the position. Number 9. Blatant disregard for understanding physical pain that we experience. Number 8, politics, playing favorites over qualified goalies. Number 7 on my list, support us when we win. Awesome. But blame us when we lose. Tip of the spear. Always is the case. Number 6, coaches have high expectations of us all the time, and if we don't live up to it, just going to result in failed results. Number 5 on my list, no empathy nor sympathy for what or how we are feeling as a goaltender, whether it be losses, pain, you name it. Number 4 on this long list of factors, stupid comments like, hey, why don't you play more like insert some D1 or pro goalie? Sorry. Now, no two goalies are the same. Hate to tell you that. Number 3, we're getting to the top 3 now. Broad or general comments that don't exceed 1 or 2 words for feedback. Move your feet. Great. Stop the ball. Fantastic. Number 2, poor goalie guidance. They tell us to do it one way, but coaches tell us to do it another way. So you have goalie coaches telling us to do it one way, and the head coaches to do it their way. We're only to listen to the coaches, but not the goalie coach's way, because the head coach is who calls the shots. And last but not least, the number one reason why we have poor mental health is because we get poor feedback from the coaches. You can go up after a game. Hey, coach, I had a really rough day today. What could I have done better? Or, hey, I didn't see any playing time today. What could I do better? Just get more reps. Huh? I try to, but you keep taking it away from me. So they make these feedbacks. They give feedback, and they don't understand what they're really truly saying to a goaltender. So that's my top 10 list. These are my top 10 list, my factors that I've seen both as a goalie myself and as a goalie coach for over the last 26 plus years. Seeing it, hearing it over and over, and lately reading more about these same issues through the Lax Goalie Rat Forum all the time. And I am literally appalled that, it's every year. It's every year. Here comes the same issues. New parents, new situation. They go out there, or they just stumbled upon Lax Goalie Rat, and they had to share their same story. I'm like, okay, this is like beating a dead horse here. I've heard this before. Let me tell you what I think you need to do. So anyway, so with that, team, your thoughts on this top 10 list? Agree, disagree, make your points. Tyler, I'm going to kick this one off with you.
Do I agree?
Yeah.
I definitely agree with it. It sounds, I wouldn't disagree with any of them. What was number 5 again?
So number 5 was no empathy or sympathy for what or how we are feeling from the coaches.
And then number 6.
And number 6 was high expectations of a goaltender. Like, your job is to stop everything that comes your way. You're to clear the ball.
I think expectations are way too off in terms of the goalie position for lacrosse especially, right? Because when you think about, like, a lot of people, I think, have this idea when you look at hockey, when you look at soccer, when you look at other sports where there's a goalie involved, scores that go into a double digit, almost non-existent, right?
Right.
In soccer, like, I don't know that it ever would happen, right? Like, and in lacrosse, like, 10 goals, like, that may be a spectacular game, actually, because the other side might be 20. Right.
Right.
And so I think that's a huge one, is like really setting up a newer goalie, especially like for what they realistically need to expect in terms of, like, goals against, save percentages, some of those things, right? Like, if a hockey goalie had a 50% save percentage, that would be awful. Right?
Yep.
If a lacrosse goalie has like 55%, 58% save percentage, that's actually freaking spectacular.
Right, exactly. That's what I tell the kids all the time.
Blaze Reardon was voted not only the best goalie in the PLL, but the MVP of the league with like a 59 or like a 60% save average, which in any other sport like that, saying 60 is awesome. That's a D. And anything else, right? Like, but for lacrosse, it's awesome. And so I think that that's a big one that goes unmissed, is like, what is the expectation really supposed to be, And
that goes back to the coach not truly understanding the position, because we talk about this all the time, and Rachel, you can understand this too as well, is that you can take your top 10 programs in Division I, women's lacrosse, men's lacrosse, and at best, their save percentages might be in the high 40s, maybe mid 40s at best. Average is probably around 40%. And then you're like, if you go to look at the stat lines, the save percentages of who's leading in save percentages, it's going to be the ones who have the shittiest teams, who literally have, like, because they're seeing 1,000 shots in a game pretty much, right? And of course, I exaggerate, but they're seeing a crap load more shots, so they have a lot more opportunities to see those. And the shots at those top 10 schools are legitimately, like I was talking about Notre Dame, those are accurate, finesse, right in the corner, right inside the pipe, and they're scoring on those a good chunk of the time. So your save percentages are definitely going to be a lot lower than what we might think as 50% being phenomenal, 52% being even better, 60%. So when I see stat lines of 60, 70, 80%, I'm like, Okay, I'm just going to shake my head. But needless to say, you're those top 10 teams who have some of the best goalies in the country are only at best 45%, you know?
And so I think like that's a big part of it, like the expectation, and like also then like letting like a goalie know like really what the other expectations are in terms of like being able to clear the ball, being a team leader, like don't look only at, like if you're a coach that only looks at your goalie save percentage, like you're missing so much of whether or not they were successful, right?
Yep.
Another one I think is I think it was number 5.
The empathy and the sympathy for how we're feeling.
I love it because here's the thing, right? If a player takes a shot to the helmet in a game in high school here, they stop play and make sure that they're okay.
Right.
I could take 8 shots to my freaking face and not once are they stopping play to make sure that I'm okay. And so I always laugh when like somebody like, you know, takes a shot to the arm or the leg or a defender and everybody stops. Oh my gosh. And I'm like, what are you crying about? I take that on a regular. Nobody's coming over here to me to make sure I'm okay. And
right.
Like I get you weren't expecting it, but welcome to my world. Like, but yet they don't realize that. Like, oh, he's scared of the ball. He just took one off the leg and now he's okay. But the second your defenseman gets hit in the leg, you're running over there, you know, with the, you know, the gurney to make sure he's okay and can get off the field. And I take that 90 times in a year.
Yeah,
and
we have birdies around our heads. We got,
like, right. And I don't want or need them to come over and check in. Oh, are you okay? No, right. But recognize like that's literally what we do.
Right.
We get hit by those shots sometimes, right? Like, and nobody's coming over to check on us.
Nope.
Right. Like I take the shot right to the face and, you know, play goes on. And it happens to a regular player in the game, and it stops play. Mm-hmm. And so when I maybe act frustrated because you're putting me in a shooting drill, and I just took 15 freaking shots off body parts, and then I'm a little frustrated and maybe want to step out for a second, and you're like, "What are you doing?" And it's like, "Well, I'm pretty sure I'm good. Like I took about 50 shots, 15 of them." Hit me in the freaking body in a way that, like, the only way it could hit me there is if the guy literally has never aimed in his life. And so whether I'm in the goal or not, it ain't going to make much of a difference. So, you know, like, hey, let me go get a breather. Let me take a quick one. And it's, you know, and I see it's like, oh no, right? Get back in there. And so, like, that's a big one that I see.
Well, it's like I was watching.
Tell some of my goalies, some of my other coaches, right? They get like a shooting drill set up and like, they've been, coach, are those goalies ready? And I'm like, yeah, get started. We'll be right over, right? And it was to buy my goalies just a few more minutes of time of not getting just freaking pelted by freaking, you know, shots because guys, they don't pay attention to the fact that, like, guys are aiming, like, not at all or just, like, terribly to where it's like one of these freaking goalies just took, like, 10 shots right to the freaking body. Like, my goodness. Like, so, yeah, that's why, you know, at that point say, you know what, hey, go get some water. Let me tell my guys how to freaking shoot again because clearly they forgot.
Yeah. Rachel, what are your thoughts on all these?
Yeah, I feel like number 4 is, like, I feel like I've heard that so many times. Like, I feel like I should have that tattooed on my body at because I've heard it so many times. Like, you should play more like this goalie or that goalie. Like, why aren't you playing this certain way? Like, I think that coaches need to realize that every goalie, like, 2 goalies are not the same. Like, lightning doesn't strike twice in the same spot. Like, no 2 lacrosse goalies are the same, and they will all play differently. And I think that, you know, I'm a goalie coach at Madonna University, so glad that they have a goalie coach to be able to say, you know, like, both of those goalies there play completely different games that I played. But I'm still able to say, you know what? This is how you save this shot. That's okay with me. You know, I'm not making them play the exact same game that I played because it worked for me. The way that I play is not going to work for you. we are all different goalies. We all are going to do different things, like we all play different angles. We all play different arcs. We all have a different style. And I think that that's what coaches need to understand about goalies. Like, they are such a unique player, like it's the same with a Fogo or a draw specialist. Like, that draw specialist is not going to be like your backup or whatever. Like, that Fogo is not going to take the same face-offs as your last one that just left your program. Like, they are all going to play their own unique game. And I feel like goalies sometimes don't get that love, the same as like draw specialists or Fogos do when it comes to the game. I also think that number 9 is a big one of saying, like, okay, yeah, sure, you just got hit, but keep going. It's sometimes difficult to keep going, and I feel like as goalies we do have a lot of grit and we do play through a lot of stuff. Like, playing club for a little while, I was the only goalie there, and so I can't, at least in my mind, I can't show that I'm hurt because then there will be no goalie in net. And I think like when Tyler was saying, okay, you get a shot and you need to step out of the net and recoup. And as a head coach, I tell my goalies, both JV and varsity, that, okay, we're about to do this shooting drill. I would love for you guys to step into this drill. Please either rotate, or if both of you are gassed or whatever, like, it is okay if, we don't have a goalie in the drill for a few reps. Like, that is not the end of the world. That is okay. By all means, take that break that you need. If you got drilled, take a step back or switch. And I feel like a lot of coaches don't really let their goalies know that that's okay to do. So coming into the program, like, I really wanted to emphasize that, because as a kid, being the only goalie, I was very hard on myself of saying, I can't step out. My coach is going to be mad at me. That always ran through my head. And I don't even think that my coach ever said anything to me before the season about if I could step out or if I couldn't step out. That was just never discussed. So I kind of took it upon myself of like, I can't step out because that's going to show my teammates or my coaches that I'm weak, that I'm not playing the position that I should be playing. And I think that is something that needs to be addressed by the coaching staff before the first practice of the season, or in fall season if you're in college, like that, or when a new goalie comes into the program. I think that those things need to be addressed and would be a great way to change the narrative.
And you nailed that right there, because that right there is what's going to hit home to all these goalies listening to this podcast, because that right there, where they have blatant disregard for how we feel because of retribution, and that is what is driving us down this rabbit hole of like I don't know what to do anymore, because when I get hurt, I actually feel pain. Yes, are we supposed to show grit? Are we supposed to suck it up and stay back in there? Because if we don't, then we have a weak goaltender or whatever the case may be. And that kind of stigma has to fucking change, and coaches have to understand that we will experience pain, that sometimes, sure, if I get hit in the thigh, it may not hurt as much as it might hit me, but if it hits me in the right spot, because stingers happen, and I've gotten one too many of them in college, where I'll get one right in that shoulder, right, that nerve ending, and I will lose all feeling. It'll take me 2 minutes to get my feeling back, but I will lose all feeling. Do they stop play? No. They see me look like I'm grabbing my shoulder? Yeah. But do they stop play? No, they don't. They keep on playing. And they're like, you good? I'm like, I can't feel my arm right now. I can't even hold I don't even know if my glove's on my hand right now because I can't feel it. But we're going to keep you in the game. But if we step out, then it shows like, okay, we're not the right goalie for you. And if there's other goalies on the team, immediately that was their green light to say, okay, you're going in now. And now you play the rest of the time. And now you play the rest of the season, because our goalie is too weak to be in there, because that's their job, is to get hit with the shot. Yeah. I understand that concept, but that is the bullshit part, is like, you step in there. You step in and take a shot, and you tell me how long you're going to stay in there. Let me take one off your freaking shoulder and see how that feels. right?
Yeah.
And I guarantee you'll think differently about that. But do they? No. Do they want to think about that? No, because they don't. We're an afterthought, which is the problem with it.
And it's like, it's fun and a good balance too, right? Because I tell my son that plays, I tell him, I'm like, listen, man, I was like, he's 12 and now, right? But he's been playing since he's like 8 on and off. And I told him, like, listen, dude, sometimes there's going to be moments where you're going to get hit and it's going to hurt and you might have to cry under that helmet for a minute and get through it. But not like, I don't, in a game maybe, right? In practice, if you take one like that, can you freaking step out for a second? Heck yeah. And that's the difference, right? Like, man, you're in a big, you're in a game and you're in the middle of play and you get that one that hits you in the leg and you might have to cry under that helmet for just a second until you got a second to either like let somebody know or, that's just sometimes how it can be in a game. I'm like, but, that the difference between that happening in a game versus a practice, right? Hugely different because I maybe get like one of those ones in a game where it really gets me and I'm like, ooh, right? But if you're stuck in a shooting drill for the right amount of time, you could have 10 of those in freaking 30 minutes. And in which case, like, then no, I don't expect you to just sit there and cry under your helmet while you get repeatedly beat to hell. It's very different, in terms of, when that may not be acceptable,
Yeah, and that's the thing, but we have to have those moments, and this is where I wish coaches would have some sort of formal training somewhere required, but heaven forbid the U.S. Lacrosse do any kind of formal training or requirements outside of level 1, level 2, level 3 that actually pertains to understanding your team. This is where the U.S. Lacrosse Convention back in the day was great because you could go there and they had all sorts of these kinds of topics to understand your team and how to get more out of your team and things to consider when you're actually working with individual players or individual specialists, would be a fogo or a draw specialist, goalies, you name it, because we're all going to be a little bit different, especially goalies. And so, but did they ever take that advantage? Some did, not many. But, if we had more of those things today, then they might understand exactly where we're coming from, especially if you're a new coach, like you're a dad or your mom and, you have your kid who just picked up the sport for lacrosse. No one wants to coach, but you figure, hey, well, I swam my whole entire life through college and I understand how team works and they try their hand at coaching lacrosse. So they try their best. But at some point they get to that point where, okay, that's a position I don't know anything about. So we'll just let it work itself out. Well, that's the problem is like, it's, and I always say this too, like head coaches, you know the sport, but you need to, and you might know how to coach, but you need to know a little bit about every position. And that's what I think great football coaches are. Like they talk about Bill Belichick, lacrosse player, football guy, whatever. He's diabolical because he's not an expert in all the positions on his team, but he knew how to work a team. He knew personnel. He knew, how to get into each guy's brain and find out what works best for them because he got to get personal with each one of them. I feel like coaches today literally are using it as a paycheck or like, okay, because my son or daughter played, and so I'm just going to coach lacrosse until they graduate and then move on. And whatever, they just, want us to win and they want to win championships. And I feel like there's not enough educated coaches who take the extra, go the extra mile, and take the extra step to get to know all the positions. And I say, like, attacker, attack, and there's 3 of them. There's middies, there's 3 of them. There's defense, there's 3 of them. But there's only one goalie, and they're by themselves. And so when they're just standing around not doing anything, they literally are standing around not doing anything. But and so therefore, it's like when something happens, all of a sudden they're like, well, just stick it out. Like, well, you don't really truly understand what we're doing. So I really think that they need to take a slice of humble pie, take a shot to the face, and see how that feels, and truly understand what it's like to be a goalie because we deal with it. And I get it. And I'm not going to name the individual because there may be some legal rights that come from it. So I don't want to say the person's name, but they said, look, you know what you signed up for when you decided to be a goalie. You know that you're going to get hit. You know that you're going to suffer losses. You know that you'll have some successes and you'll have wins. But this is what you signed up for. Well, not every goalie. Yeah, you're going to expect wins and losses. But I don't think many goalies who ever tried lacrosse for the first time understood that, yeah, you could give up 20, 30 goals, right? I'm not even going to jump on the soapbox of what could be coming down the road with sixes, where you play 6-on-6, you're seeing 20 to 30 goal games all day long. And so that is goldfish mentality. And so they're like, well, just get over it. Well, yeah, when you get to sixes, you're going to have to learn to get over it. Well, right now, kids are struggling with just giving up 7 or 8 goals a game. And that's a struggle bus. So, it's one of those things where look, I get it. You're going to get scored on, and we sign up for this stuff. But what we don't sign up for is the negative comments. We don't expect the crap we don't expect to get shit on by our own teammates and players and coaches and parents just because we gave up a few goals.
Parents are the worst.
Oh, they're the worst. Yeah. One finger's pointing at the person, 3 or 4 pointing right back at you as the one who's really at fault. Because when you think about this, like, they forget that there's a thing called the team sport, right? And I always say this, like, okay, you're going to blame the goalie for the 20-2 game that you guys just lost. I'm sorry, your team couldn't put up more than 2 goals in a game?
They're
it's
terrible.
Our fault, but it's our fault. Unacceptable.
Right. Get mad at me if I let in 22 and the other goalie let in 1.
Yeah.
Right? When there's that far of a spread, I'm sorry, it's not the goalie's fault.
No.
He's the last person they'll be looking at when it's that big of a spread. But yeah, parents are the worst, man. I hear, got to make a save. And I'm like,
I mean, we are also the only player out there.
But he can't do it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're the only player out there who has their mistakes put on the scoreboard.
That's the big one that I think.
Everybody else out there who's missed a ground ball, missed a shot, missed a face-off or a draw control, like, those are mistakes that happen in a game, but those aren't displayed for everybody to see. Yeah, they're displayed on your stat sheet after the game, but when a goal goes in, the whole team, every other team is celebrating, the whole fans are celebrating, the coaching staff on the other side is celebrating, and you're the one who they're celebrating that you let that in or you missed that. As a goalie, you feel that emotion and you feel that put on you. And I think that, like, these coaches got to understand that on the other side of it, okay, but so everybody else is celebrating against my goalie as a head coach, but
yep.
I'm still able to yell at my goalie and say, hey, that's fine. Get the next one. Talk to the defense. Defense will say, that's my bad. Or as a goalie, I was always like, no matter if it was my bad or not, I liked keeping my defense positive and just saying, hey, that's my bad. I'll get the next one. That's my bad. Like, let's go. Let's keep it up. And I think that having that same, like, goalie mentality as a head coach, being able to tell my defense and the goalies in that, just like, hey, goldfish mentality, let's move on and go to the next one. It's the same concept as saying, you didn't get that ground ball, let's get the next one.
Yep.
You got to be doing that same thing to your goalies.
Do you think, and this is one of my questions I had, and I'll save the other two for the next time, but do you think this kind of an issue that we're seeing today is all over, or is it an universal, or do you think it's more in the non-hotbed regions than it is the hotbed, or do you think it's a little mixture of both? It's going to happen in the non-hotbeds because there's just not the experience. There's just not the ones who are well educated. We got that. But when you're talking East Coast, right in the Mecca, you have Goalie Smith. There's goalie coaches all over the Eastern Seaboard. You have graduated goalies that are just hanging out there. There's all sorts of resources at, your beck and call, but do you think these issues are still happening on high school teams and club teams on the East Coast? Tyler, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's happening?
I think so.
Yep, to some extent.
Only from a perspective of, like, not every hotbed, like, is sort of like the budgets, right?
Right.
For a private versus public school, like, can vary drastically, right? So even in Maryland, the budget for coaches at Boys Latin is drastically different from, let's say, the budget at Northeast High, and they may not have a budget for a goalie coach,
Gotcha. Yep.
And because I see it here in Florida, right? Like I watched the game the other day that had 8 coaches on the sideline. Okay, and this is a state championship competitive level team, right? And another team that has 2 coaches on the sideline. And so I think I would imagine, right, that like some of that has to happen still in some of the hotbeds.
I mean, I would say it's same thing. You're right with the budgets, but you also think that, and that's the other problem too, is some of these non-hotbed regions, you just don't have the resources as well. And that's the other thing that hurts too is like, there's goalies out there, but they were so put off probably their whole career. Like I could like dealing with the one student that I just saw yesterday play. Like I can tell you right now, she wants nothing to do probably with lacrosse after yesterday. Probably wants nothing to do with coaching. She's ready to move on with her life and ready to start her next journey in getting her graduate degree. And I don't blame her because the way she was treated for 4 years in college, I wouldn't blame her. And so it kind of makes sense. So we could have more resources had there been proper treatment from the get-go, had there been proper respect given and by their coaches all the way through life, whether it was through college or in high school, whatever. Because I feel like we're missing out on some really good goalie coaches in this country, but because they're so just blatantly disregarded and disrespected their whole time, they're like, I don't want to deal with this shit anymore. I already went through it once. I don't want to deal with it again. And they don't want to get back. Understand, I mean, everyone has their reasons. But I think some of that is played into that. So we could sit here and I don't, for time purposes, I don't want to continue to keep bashing because we could be bashing all day long and talk about these things. But how can we help goalies who are struggling with these coaches that give shitty feedback, or not so much shitty feedback, but don't really truly understand the position of being a goalie or how we feel inside the goal? Like, what are some things? And so I always talk about what are the things that we can control to help us overcome these obstacles, and what are the things that we can't control that it's going to happen regardless and we can't do anything about, but we got to go back to the controllables about what we can control. So the things that we can control, I know for a fact, number one is probably how we perceive things or how we react to what is being said, right? Like, we're getting drilled on in a 1-0 with no defense. I can walk out of the cage. What the coach does, I don't care what they say or do, but if I need to take a break, I'm going to take a break. So that's something that is in our control. So what are some controllables that you guys think would be a good one to share with our?
One thing that I always tell my goalies is like, you're going to have that moment when it comes to like some coach yelling at you about like, oh, you got to have that one. Like I always hate those. Like, you got to come up with that save, and I'm like, okay, it was freaking from 8 yards, like. So I always tell my goalies one thing to remember is this. I always say to them, listen, I was like, at the point that you're getting shot at, whether it is a shot that you absolutely should save, or if it was just a ridiculous, like, yeah, who's saving that, right? Like, doesn't matter. If you should have saved it, shouldn't have saved it, whatever the case may be. I'm like, anytime you hear that, like, just remember that means that somewhere else on the field, someone else also failed.
Correct.
And it's like, go back to what you said. Like, if you're getting shot on, that means a face-off was lost, or that someone took a bad shot, or that someone didn't pick up a ground ball, or someone missed a slide assignment, or someone made a bad pass, or someone didn't catch a pass. Somebody else on the field failed. So even if you should have had that shot, guess what? You're entitled to fail sometimes, just like everybody else on the field is
100%.
entitled to fail sometimes. And I'm like, so just say, yep, just like shrug it, but I'll get the next one. Even if you're like, yeah, that's ridiculous, right? Just like, I'll get the next one, and that's like the one thing I always tell them to control that too as well. Like, even if they get told something like, do it this way or do it that way. I always tell my goalie, say, okay, yeah, I'll give it a try. And I'm like, and then, if they're watching, like if you're sitting there like in a warm up or something, give it a try a few times. and then just go back to playing the way that you normally were, because they probably won't even recognize that you were doing anything different, because a lot of times they don't. They were just like, oh yeah, do this different, because they heard it or they saw it one time. And I'm like, say, oh, okay, yeah, let me give it a shot. Do it 2 or 3 times and then just play how you're going to play. And I bet you most of the guys that coach you won't even notice that you started doing it the same old way again if you're making stops,
And you made a good point too. And here's the thing: you started talking on. I was thinking about something else. But one of the things we can't control is also, come on, kids, stop playing video games during the season, right? And turn on ESPN and watch some of these D1 goalies, because you can pick up some things from time to time just watching better goalies and see what they do. I'm not saying you have to be like them, because now we're going back to, why don't you just play like so-and-so? No, but you can pick up certain things. Like maybe like for an observation I picked up a long time ago, I'm like, you know what? I'm noticing a lot of these goalies are dropping to the knees than making these textbook like form saves for low shots. If every goalie is dropping to their knees to make a low save, why not give it a try in practice and see if it works? Yeah. What's the worst that could happen? It goes in. I mean, It's practice. It's not like
it's like I had a kid recently, like this last year. He asked me, he's like, he was like on hip shots, right? Like hip shots. He's like, should I go under more or over? And I'm like, I have always erred on, if I don't think if it's gonna be below my shoulder on my offside, I am coming under every time. And he's like, okay. And then literally that night, I see some Instagram about a coach talking about going over. And I was like, okay. I watched the whole video. I'm like, man, you know what? He makes some great points. I'm almost convinced to give it a try. So like I sent it to my goalie and I'm like, I do it this way. This guy made some great points about doing it the way he does it. So, hey, whatever you think, and my goalie's like, well, I like it your way. And I'm like, okay, well, cool. But hey, let's say you were at a camp or you were somewhere and somebody told you to try it. Hey, go ahead and try it, man. That guy, like I said, the whole video I watched it, I'm like, dang. Like the way he's saying it, like I could pick it apart if I wanted, but at the same time, he's also made a few great points to where, hey, if I have a goalie that ends up saying I like going this way, I'll probably be like, okay, keep going that way.
Rachel, you got some controllables and uncontrollables you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I would love to speak on this in two separate versions of myself. One Sure. as a goalie, and then the other one as a head coach. But my first as a goalie, and if I was playing for a coach that was disrespectful and just not understanding goalies, I would just say I think that both coaches and goalies should think about walking a mile in each other's shoes. Like, if you're a goalie, just know how much your coach is doing, not only for you, if they're helping you out as a goalie, but if they're not, they are controlling the whole entire team. They have a lot on their plate. They are doing this. Being understanding on both ends will help your mentality of just being like, okay, maybe they're having a bad day or whatever like that. I think that having that mentality and just being a more understanding goalie or person is going to help you not only in your lacrosse career, in your lacrosse experience, but in life itself. You're going to be able to, let things roll off your back more easily. Whether it's a shot that went in that you're like, oh, I should have saved it. Okay, cool. Already forgot about it. I'm ready for the next one. Or, oh, I didn't like that comment that girl just said to me or that my coach just said to me. But you know what? Let's forget about it already. Like, it's already out of my head. I'm ready for the next coaching. If you want to coach me, I'm ready for it. But if you don't, those comments that you're making, I'm just going to ignore and focus on the game that I need to play. And I think that could be different for guys and girls. I feel like as a young female athlete, we could take things to heart very, very easily. So I think that, just saying, hey, coach, I appreciate the fact that you are trying to help me coach, or help me be a better goalie or be the best goalie that I can be. And I know that these things that in your mind, you are saying these things to me and you think that they are helping me. I'm going to tell you from my perspective as a goalie, the advice that you're giving me or the coaching that you're giving me right now is not the best coaching that I can use. Saying move my feet, save the ball. Those are things that aren't going to be able to make me change my goalie, like my style of saves or what have you. But, you know, hey, if you tell me step up, I know what that means. So if you want me to be moving my feet, instead of say move your feet, say step up. You're not stepping to the ball enough or whatever. Like, I think that having more open communication with your coaches can ultimately help. I know from experience that sometimes that doesn't help and nothing gets better. But just, I mean, it doesn't hurt to try. I mean, for me, it did make it worse. But, you know, I think that coaches like that are very few and far between who are just going to ignore what the athlete is saying to you. For me, being a coach, I really enjoy listening to all of my athletes. And I even, before I started the season, because I'm a new coach, I sent out a questionnaire to all of my athletes just so I could understand them as players and individuals. So I knew this person likes this style of coaching and this person would rather me wait till after practice to give them instruction, or wait till after a game to give them instruction. If they're having a bad day, you know, they might act this certain way. So before I even was able to see my athletes in action and then have to guess during my whole first season, I went and did these certain things beforehand. So I was able to know how to coach each individual as an individual player. I didn't really necessarily care what position they played. I just needed to know how these kids would be coached. And I think that more coaches should be able to humble themselves. I think a lot of coaches out there, especially in the non-hotbed regions, aren't as into lacrosse as I might be. You know, I love lacrosse and I've been playing this sport for my whole entire life, and I've never wanted to leave this sport behind. So I have that, but I understand that there's coaches out there who are just doing it for a paycheck or just doing it for this, and they don't have that same heart and that same drive. And I think recognizing a coach who cares about lacrosse and cares about the team and cares about this sport and a coach who doesn't are very night and day difference. And I think that if you are an athlete who cares a lot about this sport, you are going to be able to recognize a coach who cares and a coach who doesn't care. So I think knowing that and seeing that, having that conversation with that coach, okay, I can see that this coach is trying to learn and is trying to better themselves as a coach or as the person who's trying to teach me something, and a coach who's not going to. And I think that a conversation needs to happen in order for an athlete to be able to see that. And I think that is something that I think would benefit the lacrosse community as a whole.
And I think that's absolutely 100% true, because I think really, you know, there has been so many of the successful programs that if you look at their coaches, they have longevity. They didn't just come in and win a state title. They didn't come in and win one in 2 years. The ones who are seeing success, whether it be on the scoreboard, whether it be in the records, or whether it's in trophies, whatever the case may be, there seems to be a common underlying, which is the fact that they take their job one step further. It's not just X's and O's. It's getting personal with their players, and that includes the goalies as well. And that is to truly understand the players, like you did with the survey, you know. And when coaches start to get to understand their players better, like it's beyond lacrosse. You know, you look at some of these tenured coaches in the NCAA. They're good for a reason, because the longer the coach is with that program, the more they know their kids, they know what's working. And when they find too, because they treat it like a family. Like, we need to, you know, you find success when you work together as a family. You can hash out issues without any retribution. You know, like, I could swear at you, I could get mad with you, but at the same time, I'm going to love you and respect you the same way. And your playing time is not going to be based on this conversation right now. It's just saying, you know what? I hear you. I understand you. I disagree with your comments, but you know what? It's not going to make you lose any more playing time or gain any more playing time. You know, but I'm glad that we had that conversation. And those are things that has to happen more often. So one of the things that we can talk about when it comes to control is regardless of what you think your coach has of you, have conversations with them frequently and as often as possible, because if you can get to know them more and they're going to start to open up to you more, and you might see more playing time, or they might get to understand you better. That's the end game, is to get them to understand you versus whether it's playing time or whatnot, because every situation is going to be a little bit different. So, yeah, so that's good. I mean, I love that kind of stuff, and that's the thing is once you get in touch with understanding your players, and a lot of coaches don't want to take that time to do so. Like I said, when we finally turned the page back in high school, and we had a new coach my junior year, he was in our school like weekly. Like, you saw him around campus like once a week, and this is high school. And he had his own business that he ran, but he was in our school almost weekly checking up on the kids. And then if he saw somebody like, hey, do you mind have a conversation real quick? 2-minute conversation, and he'll go back to class just to kind of touch and base. Hey, you're making classes okay? You got any issues with your schoolwork? It's showing that he actually taking the time to care for us, and that's right there. And since then, we went on a 20-state title run for a long time. So, I mean, there's proof in what you see. So, no, these are all definitely good things. At this point, I think I'm going to kind of pause the rest of this, because I think we have so much to talk about more. We didn't get to the statements I want to talk about, and a lot of it has more to do with feedback. And I think feedback has its own topic in and of itself. And again, it starts with these coaches. And I just want to put a disclaimer out there for those who are still listening at this point, that we're not talking about every coach, because there's still a lot of great coaches out there. I'm talking to the 90% that I talked about in my very first podcast. 90% of coaches across America, boys and girls, all divisions, know little to nothing about the position itself. There's 10% that do, whether they were former goalies, they're a goalie coach, or they took the initiative to educate themselves in the position. And I appreciate those coaches that, if you are listening, I appreciate you for doing that. But for those that have little to no knowledge about goalies and don't want to get yourself educated, these are the ones who I'm talking to. These are the ones that upset me the most. So I think this is great. I love the feedback that I've heard from you guys today. I think it's going to help a lot of these young nutmenders out there suffering from this, what I call epidemic of poor coaches. And like I said, I'm not saying you're horrible coaches. What I'm just saying is you're not a full coach who truly understands the goalie position or your players, but you need to take accountability for yourself, as well as just like as us goalies and other players take accountability for their actions as well. At least they should be. So seriously, I think this was a killer topic today. Thank you two for joining me, talking about this debilitating issue facing the goalie community and other student athletes. You don't have to be a goalie to understand how to handle coaches who think they know it all. Play it off they know it all, but know very little about the sport or the position. So not all of us can be blessed with a coach who has played the position, lived for the sport, and understands coaching, and that goes beyond just the X's and O's. It's so much more. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I did, and hopefully we were able to provide you some guidance when it comes to trying to figure out how to understand and work with these un-goalie educated coaches. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to us at goaliesmatter@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you, any feedback that you got, because you are not alone in this fight. We've all experienced bad coaches at some point in our careers, and I hate to tell you this, it's not going away anytime soon. But like I've always said, it's how you respond to the adversity that defines who you truly are. So team, thank you again for joining me. Any last words of advice before we get out of here? We'll start with you, Tyler.
I just always tell everybody, just love the game and it'll love you back in its time. And it may not be your timing, but it will love you back.
Awesome. Rachel?
If you are a goalie or if you are a coach, you can always learn more about the goalie position.
Love it. Simple and sweet and to the point. Great job, team. I love you. Thank you again. Couldn't be more grateful to have you guys on. We will talk soon. Okay, there you have it. That was our conversation with Coach Rachel and Coach Tyler regarding coaches who just don't understand me, bad coaches who just don't want to take the initiative to understand what it's like to be a goalie. I can tell you this, that during our lacrosse careers, or even your careers, you're going to experience good coaching and bad coaching, but it's how you respond and cope when you experience one of these bad coaches. So once we try to understand what they really want, all we can do is our best to understand and take that feedback, work on the elements of our game, and improve our performance. So as always, Be grateful to play the sport. Enjoy the time that you have, because we're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. Let's find the good in our lives and live our lives with joy in our hearts. Thank you. We're out of here.